We are officially in week one of the preseason, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Breaking the Interim Podcast. Brandon, how you doing today, man?
Overall start, so looking forward to it.
I got you. I
How
hear you,
about you?
man. Another day. Just happy to we're getting days and days, weeks closer to the NFL season. I don't know
Yep.
if it's just me, but I feel like the NFL all season is way longer than the in season or the regular season playoffs. It feels
Oh yeah.
like that regular season goes by like that, and then we back in February waiting for football to start again. So off season be feeling long as hell. Yeah,
They need to do something about that.
I'm sure the players don't like it if they do, but yeah.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right,
everyone. We're
man.
going to get to this opening drive. Former Super Bowl MVP quarterback Nick Foles, he's retiring as a member of the Eagles. It'll have a little ceremony at the Eagles home opener. I believe it's week 2 there at the link. The Saints, they've signed linebacker Pete Werner to a 3-year, $25 million extension. Falcons wide receiver Rondale Moore, he's out for the season after suffering a knee injury in practice. Wide receiver Robbie Chosen, he's now signed with the 49ers. Harrison Butker is now the NFL's highest paid kicker, signed a 4-year, $25.6 million extension earlier this week. The Patriots just came down today that they parted ways with wide receiver Juju Smith Schuster, and the league has come down hard on the Giants and the Lions after multiple fights at a joint practice early this week. Both teams they've been fined $20,000 apiece.
Definitely some bonehead stuff going on with that. Kind of
Yeah.
want to talk about a little later. That's cool with you.
Yep.
Before we get to that, last week, Brandon and I, we talked about the NFC South and the NFC North. This week, we're looking at the NFC West and the NFC East. We're going to start with the NFC West first. Brandon, which team you want to talk about first, man?
I'm gonna go with the divisional winners from last year. I feel like they're gonna repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think similar to our show last week when we were talking about the Lions, another one of the rosters, one of the few rosters around the league that didn't need very many major improvements from last year to this year. I think they could run the table again, and if they fail, it'll be because they beat themselves. Honestly, they got in a 3-game slide last year. We all had a little bit of questions around that time. And then also the game against Baltimore where Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. We had some questions after that. But other than that, even in the Super Bowl, they honestly took Kansas City down to the wire to that last drive in overtime. Kansas City went down the field. So um, looking towards this year, I'm going to start with the defense. We all know the names like Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave. I think this defense could do even better with Hufanga coming off his injury. If he's back 100%, he's like a Troy Polamalu. I believe he's either related to him or he used to work out with him or train under him for a little bit um, early on in his career. And then you add in a guy like Leonard Floyd, 10 and a half sacks from a year ago. He's now joined that defense. The only concern for me on defense right now is right cornerback on that roster. But offensively, Brock Purdy might only be the semi concern for me. Honestly, I love the running backs. We all know CMC, Elijah Mitchell. He's productive as well. He doesn't get as much as the credit because CMC is just the guy he is, MVP candidate. You know, the season he had and the seasons he had since he's been there. Uh, One of the best offensive linemen in that's ever played is your former commander. Of course, I can't think of him right now.
Trent
I know he's
Williams.
holding out. Yeah, Trent Williams. I think he's holding out right now. Um, so they got to get him in there before the season starts for sure. Um, I think Big Debo. You used to call him. He used to be the best receiver on this team, but Brandon Ayuk had himself a year last year. Of course, he's also had in a little bit of contract dispute with them. We don't know where he's going to play at. I think when it's
Mm-hmm.
all said and done, they'll get him back in the saddle as well as Trent Williams. I'm sure some way somehow they'll get it done, get it figured out. There's 2 guys you can't afford to be without. But yeah, I really like San Fran to make another deep playoff run, even if Ayuk gets traded. I think Trent Williams will be there. Um, even without Ayuk, I think they can make another deep playoff run or a Super Bowl appearance. How do you feel about this San Francisco 49er team?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are the favorites to repeat and win the division again. I got a little bit of concerns on the defensive side. I know Dre Greenlaw, he like tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, so I don't think he's going to be ready. I doubt he's ready anyway before the season starts. So got some concerns there. They made a couple of different coaching changes. We all know that Steve Wilkes got fired after the Super Bowl. I think he was a scapegoat for that. I really didn't like that. So they got a new guy in Nick Sorensen will be the new defensive coordinator. Brandon Staley, he's the assistant head coach now. He's also going to work with the defense as well. He was let go of LA Chargers. So I'm interested to see how that will work out. As I know a lot of people were blaming the coaching decisions, not just of Wilkes, but Kyle Shanahan, the coin toss and letting the deferring or letting the Chiefs not go first or anything like that. So I'm interested to see how these new coaching changes, if that'll improve or will it hurt their standings this year. So I don't know. I feel like you've ripped Brandon Staley a few times in the past, and I definitely had some head scratchers when I seen him do whatever he was doing with the Chargers. But yeah, man. You mentioned Leonard Floyd. They picked up Malik Collins as well, the defensive tackle, and Devondre Campbell to shore up the linebacker front. I'm thinking that I think Drake Greenlaw is probably not going to get back until like at least the middle of the season with an Achilles injury. I could be wrong. They also picked up a cornerback, Rock Yassin. I think he came over from the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. And then with the drafts, they drafted maybe a replacement for Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall. And in the second round, they drafted a cornerback, Renardo Green. So all in all, though, I still like Brock Purdy. Like I said many times last season, the freaking next coming of Joe Montana, Steve Young, and those guys. As long as he's healthy, they got a great chance of repeating the division, winning the conference again, getting back to that Super Bowl. So yeah, I definitely got them repeating to win the NFC West again as well. All right, which team you want to talk about next, man?
The Los Angeles Rams to come in second this coming season. Another team from last year really surprised me. We kind of thought that they weren't going to do anything, and they ended up, what was they 10-7 last year. Took the Lions down to the wire in the NFC wild card game. I think it was a 1 point loss for them. So, of course, all eyes will be on this defense this year. It'll be their first time in over 10 years without Aaron Donald, one of the best of all time. The big
Yeah.
guys up in the middle. But they did honestly hit the home run in the draft last year with Kobe Turner as a rookie, finished with 9 sacks. I think he'll improve on that, or if not, reach that total again. Because they also, the front office, went defense with their first 2 picks in the draft. Both Florida State guys, Jared Verse and defensive tackle Braden Fisk. Um, those young guys will have some pressure on them, but I think that it kind of like mentally, from a mental standpoint, they got to feel good. That team and the fan base, knowing that Kobe Turner had himself the season that he had last year next to Big Aaron Donald. Offensively, first thing that comes to mind, electric, man. We all know they can run the ball. They didn't run the ball as good as they could have last year, but they could if they wanted to. We know that um, from a personnel standpoint, Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, the season he had last year, those two were on fire. Demarcus Robinson, he's no slouch either. I think Puka just got injured in camp this past week, but
Yeah, I
hopefully he'll
heard
be
he's like
back.
week to week.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be back quick. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a quiet push for first place. If San Fran, like I said, beats himself, if they get into a slide, I think LA can be on them as well. The quarterback, Matt Stafford, we all know what he's capable of. So yeah, I really like this Los Angeles Rams team to um, continue to make some noise out there in the NFC West. How do you feel about this
I
Rams
do
roster?
too. I do too, man. As long as they got Matt Stafford, if he can stay healthy, I give them a good chance, just
Mhm.
as about as anybody of winning the division. So yeah, I got them in second place right now as well. Like you said, they drafted a couple of defensive guys in the first and second round. They also picked up my guy Blake Corum out of Michigan, go Blue, in the third round to help out with Kyron Williams, because he was a great back, but he was dealing with some injuries last year. And when he was out, that run game just wasn't the same. So getting Blake Corum in the mix, I think that'll help them out a lot, give them a little bit more depth on that running side of the ball as well. Like you said, man, this is gonna be the first season without their all-pro Aaron Donald. So I'm kind of concerned because he got a lot of attention, double team, sometimes triple team. So I wonder um, how that defensive line is gonna look. Who's gonna be getting the attention now if they're gonna shut down guys? If that defensive line can still get that same type of pressure of the quarterback, how they do in the run game, stuff like that. So I'm real interested to see how they'll go, how those guys look like that. They also picked up one of the guys out of Washington, Cam Curl, our safety. He's with the Rams now. I think that's going to be a decent pickup for them. I know he was like one of the only guys in the backfield, the secondary for the Commanders that was competent. I'll talk about that a little later down the line. But yeah, man. Let's see. They also picked up a guard, Jonah Jackson. I think he came over from the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. But he's dealing with an injury right now. I think he's going to be out for the preseason. So hopefully they can put him back in the fold by the time the season starts. And they also picked up a cornerback last couple of seasons with Jacksonville, Darius Williams, but he played with the Rams, I think, for 3 years. I think he initially got to start with the Ravens as like an undrafted free agent. Then the Rams picked him up. He won a Super Bowl with them in what was it, 2018? Whenever they won the Super Bowl a few years back, he was with that team. Now he's back in the fold, so that should be a good addition for them as well. They also got Tre'Davious White, another cornerback. I think going along with Jalen Ramsey, that's probably a good addition for them as well. So yeah, man. Overall, I like how they look on paper. But like I said, as long as they got Matt Stafford, they should be fine. Cooper Kupp last year going into the season, he was rehabbing, dealing with injuries. This season, he's fresh. He should be fully healthy, so I think he'll come out the gates running, not have to rehab and start out slow. Might be Puka Nacua this time that starts out slow, but I think once Puka is like fully 100%, both of those guys are going to be some terrors for that any defensive secondary that they got to go against. But yeah, man, I like the Rams too, finishing second, maybe even first if barring injury from the Niners and things like that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, we got the Seahawks and the Cardinals left. Which one of those teams you want to talk about, man?
I'm going Seahawks. I think they'll finish third. Dawn of a new era up in the Pacific Northwest. 14 seasons. Pete Carroll's now gone, no longer the head coach. In comes the youngest head coach in NFL, our former defensive coordinator and your former defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan, Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Thinking he's bringing a little bit of a military type feel there. From what I heard over the past week, NFL Network was reporting live from there earlier this week. I think if you took this team and you placed them in a division like the NFC South, they'd probably dominate. I just feel like the Rams and the 49ers have a little bit better rosters than Seattle does right now overall. I do like the Seattle offense, obviously, more than the defense. Devin Witherspoon, though, on defense, I think he was in his rookie season last year. He played pretty well. He and Rick Woolen, I think I'm pronouncing his names right. He switched to right cornerback this offseason. They was kind of discussing that as well. NFL Network's trying to see how he'll adjust to that. But he does have a good defensive coordinator or good defensive coach to get him through that process. I think those two will make a good tandem this year. Offensively, they got to clean up third down, man. They got to convert. They had a whole lot of issues with that last year. Third and long situations, they were in there all the time. And I love a good running back room. Kenneth Walker, the third. We all know what he's done. Zach Charbonnet, those two right there, good 1-2 punch with each other up there on that Seattle offense. But yeah, new voice at the top. Another year with this offense pretty much together. DK Metcalf, we know what he can do. Tyler Lockett has been doing it for years. JSN, he'll be in his second year. We'll see what he improve off of a very good rookie campaign, just a low key as far as stats goes, but he was effective out there. So yeah, I like this Seattle Seahawks roster. But But I think they just, again, it's just a little bit too much talent with the other two teams we just discussed.
Yeah, I think they'll be on the back end of this division as well. I'm still on the fence about exactly if they're going to finish in third or if they'll finish last, but we'll see. Jamal Adams, he's gone. Quandre Diggs is gone. Also, Will Disley, he's out of there as well. Like you said, they got a new head coach, Mike McDonald. They also brought in a new offensive coordinator from the University of Washington, Ryan Grubb, and they got a new defensive coordinator, Aiden Durde or Durd, if I say that correct, right? Excuse me, sir, if I didn't. They also got my guy Sam Howell, so that's what I'm most interested in. I know Geno Smith, comeback player of the year, kind of resurrected his career over the last couple of years with the Seahawks. But I think the last I heard of him, he was dealing with like an injury or something. I know they wanted to get like an MRI or something. So I'm wondering what's going to happen as far as the quarterback situation. I still have faith in Geno Smith, but I'm just a little concerned. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line, Sam Howell gets in there and starts playing some games for the Seahawks. With the Commanders' luck, Sam Howell will be like the next great quarterback that they just let slip away. Kind of like I guess I can't say Kirk Cousins because we did have him for a while, but you know, it's typical Washington sports. Like I'm gonna talk about them later. Let me get off note right now. But back to the Seahawks. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I kind of I'm leaning to them finishing fourth place. I think they're kind of in a rebuild. I know they got pieces as far as players, but a new head coach, he's got to try to build that culture up the way he wants it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they started off a little rocky. Like you said, the talent wise, those first two teams, the Rams and the Niners that we talked about, I think they'll be a little bit better just off of from the skills set position and things like that. So I'm kind of leaning on the Seahawks going to fourth right now, but it does make sense for them being in third place too. But we're gonna talk about the Cardinals in a little bit. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Mike McDonald? I know you had some thoughts on when he used to be the Ravens DC. You think he can do a good job as a head coach?
Well, most rookie head coaches go. Um, Young guy. Hopefully, he's winning over the roster. They, like I said, everything I've heard is it's like a military type background. I guess he's like coming in kind of intense. He seems very loose in interviews that I've seen him. The players seem like they're engaged and everything. But as far as turning around a defense, he can definitely do it. I mean, we was pretty much number one in every statistical category last year. Know what he did at Michigan there in the I think 2 years he was there. So yeah, I do like him um, up there with Seattle. The thing is, when you come in, it's pretty much I feel like it's a little bit more pressure when you're a defensive head coach and you come into a team that you have to produce more offensively than defensively because they will just be like, okay, well, he's got the defense playing good. He's a defensive minded coach, but offensively couldn't develop a quarterback. Offensively, they couldn't score, all that type of stuff. So lucky for him, Geno's a talented quarterback. He's got a run game, and he's got three good guys at wide receiver at least coming into this season. So if that offensive line can hold up, and Seattle has always been, when I looked at them over the years, a run first team, in my opinion, um, despite having DK and Tyler Lockett. So they can come in, run the ball, control the time of possession, all that stuff, keep your defense sidelined. I think they got a good chance.
Gotcha. All right, Arizona Cardinals. Uh, Brandon, how you feeling about the Arizona Cardinals this year?
Not good. Okay, everyone. Um, 0-6, man. 0-6. That was their record against their own division last year. The three teams we just discussed. If you want to win in this league, it starts there. Honestly, you got to get some wins within the division, man. You play them twice. You know what I'm saying? That those six out of your 17 games is against your division. So yeah, I think about this team. Obviously, Kyler Murray comes to mind first. He missed a lot of games last year, and I think the season before as well. Only played 8 games last year. They won 3 of them. Um, so yeah, I'd like to see them to run the ball more, a little bit more. They got a talented running back in James Conner. I don't think they utilized him as much as they did his first season there. Um, so yeah, but honestly, I feel like Kyler Murray's going to want to open things up and hit his new target. I mean, you got a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. Of course, you think about his father and the success he had with Peyton Manning those years in Indianapolis. I just hope this offensive line can protect Kyler. They're a bit young on the left side, which is his blind side. So hopefully those guys uh, there from center on over to the left side can get it together. Obviously, you want the whole line too, but definitely that blind side, especially the injury history that Kyler has. He's going to be one keeping his eyes open there. Defensively, it's got to get better if they want to win more games. I think the secondary is a strong point for them. Buda Baker has been there for years. Newly acquired Sean Murphy Bunton, I believe he came over from the Tennessee Titans. He's had a successful career to this point. They just lost one of their linebackers, BJ Ojolari, tore his
Hmm.
ACL last week. Think that's going to be some pressure on the young guys that they have there to pick up the pieces for him. He was tied for second in his defense in sacks last year, so that's definitely going to be some it's gonna need some guys to pick up the slack for sure. So yeah, they gotta win some divisional games first things first, and then improve defensively before I think they can become a more formidable team. I see them finishing fourth place next season. What about you?
I'm thinking they'll finish a little bit better than the Seahawks. I think another year removed from that ACL injury that Kyler Murray had, I think he'll have a bounce back year this season. I know he missed plenty of games last year, and it definitely hurt the Cardinals because they had a myriad of quarterback. Josh Dobbs came in at one point, and but yeah, like you said, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. He's got some big shoes to fill as far as that name and legacy wise. I think he has the tools to get it done. I remember I was watching him against when he played for Ohio State against Michigan. I was just like, please don't throw him the ball. For God's sake, just don't throw him the ball because man, that dude is fast. Looks like he can run the routes really well, catch the ball too. So I think he's gonna come out the gate 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's named to a Pro Bowl off his first year. I think him, Kyler Murray, as long as he stays healthy, like you said, that line I got some concerns with as well. They picked up Jonah Williams, and he's from the Bengals, not Jonah Jackson, who I was talking about last. Jonah Jackson actually came from the Lions, everyone. Sorry about that. But they picked up Jonah Williams, offensive tackle from the Bengals. So hopefully he can help shore them guys up on the offensive line. They picked up a linebacker, Mac Wilson, as well. So we'll see how that goes with him. And they also drafted another player in the first round, Darius Robinson, excuse me, a defensive lineman with the 27th overall pick. So we'll see how that goes. But it all depends on Kyler Murray. I think he's healthy. He's one of the top quarterbacks in his league. I remember a couple of years ago when Kingsbury was still the coach. Um, they had double-digit win season, got to the playoffs, and I don't see him getting any worse than he was back then, even with that ACL injury. I think he can he's still relatively young. I think he can get even better. Just like I said, another year removed from that ACL injury, he can make some things happen. Another thing I'm slightly concerned with, the wide receiver position. Hollywood Brown, he's now with the Chiefs. He played with the Cardinals last year, right? I'm not tripping, am I? Yeah, he's now with the Chiefs. So I wonder who's going to pick up the slack for his position. I know they got Marvin Harrison, but he's probably going to get a lot of attention as he gets going on his career. So I wonder who's going to be the next guy to step up and fill in that secondary role as well. But yeah, man, as long as Kyler Murray can stay healthy, like I said, I can see them getting third, possibly balanced for second. Because I think Kyler Murray at one point was pushing for MVP before he blew his knee out a couple years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to play like that again and makes a good push for the Arizona Cardinals. But yeah, overall, we both agree Niners and Rams at first and second. And then you got Seahawks third. I'm on a fence. It's kind of interchangeable with me with the Seahawks and the Cardinals as far as who's going to finish third and fourth. But yeah, that's what we got for NFC West.
I've been waiting for NFC East. Very very competitive division last year as far as the top two teams to
Yeah,
finish
I would
there.
say.
Came down to the wire. Um, I'm gonna give the floor to you. What team you want to talk about first in your division?
Let's see. Let's just get it over with. We start with the Commanders.
Okay.
Start with the Commanders. Last year was absolutely dreadful. It's abysmal season. 4-13. The defense was just downright pathetic. I mean, I think they were like third all time in points allowed or something like that. It was just terrible. I mean, I remember just shaking my head and turning to the NFL red zone first 2, 3 games. And after that, I said, fuck it, man. I ain't watching these clowns no more. I would turn on NFL red zone or watch another game instead of watching the Commanders. I was just tired of them. They basically got a whole new damn team. Dan Quinn's a new head coach. He brings over Joe Witt Jr. with him, and he's going to be the new defensive coordinator. I mentioned Kingsbury earlier. He's going to be our offensive coordinator. Also, we have a new special teams coordinator, Larry Izzo. He's coming over from the Seahawks. I know we had issues just about every freaking line of that teams, offense, defense, and special teams. I'm hoping these new guys, these new coaches come in, we can shore these guys up technique, plans, just overall thinking and do a little bit better. I mentioned Dan Quinn. He almost brought in like every player he wanted with the Dallas Cowboys. He brought in over Dorrance Armstrong. He's a D lineman. He's brought over the center Tyler Biadasz and another defensive end Dante Fowler. All came with Dan Quinn of Washington. Like I said, I feel like we got a brand new team. Austin Eckler, we brought him over. Antonio Gibson is gone now, so Austin Eckler will take over his role. We brought in tight end Zach Ertz. We brought in defensive end Cleveland Farrell, safety from the Panthers Jeremy Chin, center from the Houston Texans Michael Dieter, a guard from the Chiefs Nick Allegretti, Bobby Wagner. That's a huge addition. Frankie Louvu, I think that's going to be a good addition as well from the Panthers. We got a new kicker in Brandon McManus, who's replacing Joey Sly. And then we picked up a couple of quarterbacks, Jeff Driscoll and Marcus Mariota in free agent. You also got a player from the Ravens, Tyler Ott, your guy's long snapper. He's with us now. So those are the guys we picked up. We lost Curtis Samuel to Buffalo in free agency. As I mentioned before, Antonio Gibson, he's with the Patriots now. And I talked earlier about Cameron Curl. He's with the who did I say he's with? The Seahawks? Who did I say he's with? I think he's with the Rams now. Yeah. Cameron Curl's with the Rams. But yeah, man, going into the franchise, Jaden Daniels, he plays tomorrow. Well, I hope he plays tomorrow. Little side note, we were talking about quarterbacks not playing. So it looks like Drake May, he played for the Patriots yesterday. And it looks like my guy Caleb Williams, he's gonna play tomorrow for against Buffalo. I don't know why he didn't play last week. I guess he didn't have enough reps in or something his first game. But yeah, so looks like the quarterbacks are gonna play, which is a good thing. So hopefully Jaden Daniels plays as well. We drafted him second overall. We had 3 picks in the second round. We drafted D lineman Jerzon Newton, a cornerback from Michigan Go Blue, Max Sainristil, and a tight end Ben Sanat. Then we had 2 picks in the third round, which we used on tackle Brandon Coleman and a wide receiver Luke McCaffrey. Hopefully Luke McCaffrey is just as good as his brother. That'd be amazing, or at least half as good as him. He was drafted pick number 100 overall. So I'm hoping that number gives him a little bit of luck going forward in his career and we get some things done. But I mean, we have to be better than we were last year, right? I mean, we have to be. Even with a new quarterback, I'm thinking we'll win 5 games at least. I don't know. Maybe it's a rebuild year, new quarterback, it'll go down slow. But we just I think we have to play better overall than we did last year. Because I'm telling you, man, I remember games, like I said, the opposing team offense hiked the ball and linebackers would disappear. It's like they ran off the field and shit would happen for the other team. It was bad. I mean, my guy, the cornerback last year, whose name's escaping me, I'm always gonna remember him socking on the field when AJ Brown burnt him. He scored a touchdown on. Then AJ Brown put the ball in his lap. I was like, oh my God, come on now. Good Lord Almighty. But yeah, man, I'm hoping we do better than last year. Now, as I say that, I'm thinking division-wise, I'm still thinking we're going to be on that bottom rung just to start. Hopefully we can get third place, but I don't know. I think the Giants, got a little bit better as well. We'll talk about them a little later. But you shaking your head. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. Then okay. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, players can stay healthy. Jaden Daniels, that line that Sam Howell had behind him or in front of him was just outright pathetic. I think he got sacked like 60 something times. Some of those times are his fault holding the ball on too long, but still, man, protect the quarterback because we got some dang on killers in this division. Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau, he turns into Lawrence Taylor whenever he plays us. Now they got Brian Burns over there. We got to deal with Michael Parsons up in Dallas. And then the damn Eagles are like they're like the Monstars of the NFL, Space Jam with the damn additions they got. We're going to talk about them later too. But yeah, man, what are your thoughts on my Commanders?
Play, okay? I believe in y'all. Partly because I don't believe in the Giants, but we'll get to them in a few minutes. All right. I'm still shocked that Dan Quinn is y'all head coach. I think it's some weird. Uh, it's just a head scratching thing from one rivalry to another. Um, I really thought Jerry Jones was going to do whatever he had to do possible to keep him there, kind of like he did with um, oh my goodness, Jason Garrett years ago,
Mm,
because we almost had Jason Garrett as our as our head coach when we hired John Harbaugh, and then he came out and broke the bank on him. And I thought that was going to be the same Dan Quinn. They let him walk. He's now the head coach for y'all. Kudos to y'all. I think he's a good pickup. I'm just again still a little shocked. Two things I like the most about y'all heading into the season: Cliff Kingsbury and Bobby Wagner. I think it started out well last year with Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator. Great old school coach, but Kingsbury, I think he has a little bit of a wider resume when it comes to developing young quarterbacks. As for Bobby Wagner, it pays to have a good linebacker. You mentioned how you seem like snaps where your linebackers would just disappear. This guy has been doing it for several years at a high level. Again, as a Ravens fan, having Ray Lewis for 17 years or whatever, it's again it pays to have a good linebacker. Some things I'm concerned about. You mentioned the offensive line and that back seven on defense. Two things I've noted and been hard on y'all over the past two seasons for sure. I think the Lackey offensive line was a better unit than y'all's last year. You mentioned 60 some sacks. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. And, again, part of that is the quarterback, part of that is the wide receivers getting open. Even though y'all had a decent tandem there, trio of wide receivers last season, but either way, it was too many sacks overall, and that starts first on the offensive line. Neither of those groups will develop into a formidable unit overnight, but hopefully, Kingsbury and Quinn, like you mentioned, hopefully those coaching staff can come in and improve things overall. Three of the first six games for y'all against the AFC North. I'm gonna pray for y'all. You might want to tell y'all guys to ice up, like Steve Smith used to say. But yeah, I got y'all finishing third place. I'm confident with that too.
mm.
Um, I would be shocked if the Giants finish ahead of y'all. So your division, where you want to go next?
Let's go with the Giants. Let's start with the Giants. I'm definitely curious to hear your opinion on them. Let me start real quick. I'll just say a couple of things. Malik Neighbors, I've been hearing some great things about him. That was the wide receiver they drafted. I want to say 6 overall, the number one or their first round pick. I've been hearing some great things about him. He was involved in those scuffles with the Lions, though, as far as getting in the fights and stuff. Not too thrilled about that. We'll talk about that a little later. Why I'm not thrilled about it. They traded for Brian Burns, like I said, Kayvon Thibodeau. Now they're adding Brian Burns to this bunch. I know he's a linebacker, but I think he'll be rushing the quarterback a lot. I like Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't like him when he plays us, but because he looks like a damn first ballot Hall of Famer when he plays against us. Like I think he got like half of his damn sacks for the season in one game against us, if I'm not mistaken. They picked up John Runyon Jr. He's son of Hall of Famer John Runyon. He's going to be shoring up that O line as well. They also have Jermaine. Excuse me if I butcher your name, sir. Eluminor. Eliminor. Sorry if I butcher that. I need to learn your pronunciation. And cornerback Jalen Mills. Hopefully these additions will help the team out. They lost Matt Breida. He's over with the Niners now, if I'm not mistaken. They also have Sterling Shepard lose. They lost him in free agency. And the biggest player or the best player, in my opinion, they lost was Saquon Barkley. I think that's going to be a huge impact on the offense. I want to see how they operate without him. But Daniel Jones, I know he was dealing with injuries a lot last year, bad quarterback play as well. But I think he'll have a little bit of a bounce back, man. I think he will. I think him and Malik Neighbors will be a good connection, and they can do some things. So yeah, man, I got the Giants right now. I got them finishing third. I could be wrong though. Curious to hear what you about to say about them. So yeah, man, the floor is yours.
I've always told you this via text that none of my sports teams stress me out like the Miami Heat basketball team. But as a part-time Giants fan, because of my father, the Giants have joined the Heat in that discussion, man. It don't make any sense, man. Joe Sheen decided to overpay Daniel Jones a few seasons ago. Now we lost Saquon. I know it was the Hard Knocks, I think, did an off season with them, and they were
Yeah,
showing um, some of the behind the scenes discussion with him. You know, they didn't have him on the mic, if I'm not mistaken, on the phone, what he was saying, but Joe Sheen was talking to him, and I'm like, you really lost this guy. Drafting number 2 overall back in, I think it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Um, he was the offense for them. Uh,
him and
it
Odell.
was Daniel Jones had himself one good season since he's been in the league a couple years ago. He had a couple injuries over the last season, but yeah, it's been Saquon Barkley. So now you replace him with Devin Singletary, a decent running back, but he's no Saquon. And then there's these guys behind him I never even heard of: Tyrone Tracy Jr., Eric Gray, and Dante Miller. No disrespect, but you would have thought they would have came out and tried to get a Josh Jacobs or one of the other running backs that were on the free agent market. Was it Aaron Jones? I think it is. Uh, Joe Mixon. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Any of those guys would have been, I think, a little bit better than Devin Singletary, or at least bring them in there with Devin Singletary. Then you could have justified that, in my opinion. But I do like the wide receiver core. Slayton, Allen Robinson, Wandale Robinson. He had a fantastic preseason last year. Jalen Hyatt, and of course, like you mentioned, the rookie Malik Neighbors. Um, I do honestly though. I pray for Malik Neighbors. I don't think he'll be there past maybe year 3 or 4. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. Um, but yeah, I already know they have issues with the ball getting to them. Seriously, Daniel Jones. I haven't trusted him since the
Mm.
game against the Bucks in prime time. I think that was about 3 years ago. I want to say it was 2001 season. I feel like it was around COVID. Just a terrible game. Like I defended him his entire career until that game, and it was like, you know what, I'm done with this. But the offensive line is set, I think, on that left side. You mentioned John Runyon, son of the Hall of Famer. Andrew Thomas, big guy. I think he's heading into year 2. He was pretty set in stone on that left side last year. Um, you mentioned Brandon Burns from a defensive standpoint, switching to the other side of the field, and Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau. But besides Deontay Banks, I think their secondary is a little suspect and has been for the past couple of years. So I don't see. You mentioned Jalen Mills. I think he struggled a little bit last year. I think he came from the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. Uh,
I
if
think
I'm not
so.
mistaken, but yeah. But overall, the bottom line is this: 6 draft picks in April. We had the same situation heading into last season, and we got production out of all of them. They need production out of all 6 guys if they want to produce and win games this coming season. They struggled to score last year. They could not put up points at all from an offensive standpoint. Can't win if you don't score touchdowns. Field goals do not win you enough in this league, Giants. And they struggle to stop the run as well. 26 in scoring defense. Um, they got a new defense coordinator in Shane Bowen. I think he'll be better than Wink Martindale. Wink, um, he had a great defensive mind. Don't get me wrong. He called the wrong plays at the wrong time. He was notorious in Baltimore for sending safeties on the blitz when we were short in the secondary, or third down and 8 or so. When you know it's a passing situation, it's like, what are you doing? And he did the same thing in New York. He'd be calling the wrong plays the wrong time. So I think Shane Bowen comes over from the Tennessee Titans. I think he was their defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. Tennessee was they didn't light it up on defense last year, but again, I think I was questioning when they picked up Wink Martindale a couple years ago. So I think this defense coordinator um, will be a little bit of improvement for them. If not, it's I think the hot seat is on for their head coach, former Bills offensive coordinator. I don't have his name on the top of my head right
Brian
now, but
Dayball.
yeah, Brian Dayball, even Joe Shane. Both those guys came over from Buffalo. He had one good season. Um, and a lot of those games in that season was close games, close wins. It's kind of like the Minnesota Vikings from a couple years ago. Like they had luck on their side pretty much, and you don't win with luck. You win with consistently scoring. You win with stopping teams from scoring, and that's two things that they've struggled, like I mentioned before. So they got to get it together. I have, um, I would say, a good 95% confidence this team will finish in last place in the NFC East, and they might be in the running for a top quarterback in next year's draft. You mentioned Shadir Sanders last week. Um, I don't know about a first pick in the draft for them, but they probably will be another top five, top 10 pick like they have been over the past several years.
Got you. So I just want to reiterate, you have zero faith. You have no faith in Daniel Jones.
None.
Got you. Understood. There you go.
There you go.
uh,
None. To make it myself clear. All right. Uh, which of these contenders you want to talk about? You got the Eagles right up 95 or your arch rival Dallas Cowboys?
let's start with the Eagles, man. They have made some changes with the coaching staff. They got a new defensive
Yeah.
coordinator and Vic Fangio, a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Like I said, Saquon Barkley, they have him now. I mean, come on, give me a break. They also have the linebacker Devin White. You kidding me? All pro Devin White. They picked up Avante Maddox. He's a cornerback. CJ Gardner Johnson returns to the fold. He played with them a couple years ago. They also picked up a defensive end named Bryce Huff and a wide receiver Devontae Parker. I think he's going to be a sneaky good pickup for them if Jalen Hurts can keep his head straight. Draft wise, they picked up Quinyon Mitchell in the draft. I was watching the draft party with CJ Stroud and Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons was really upset that the Eagles drafted Quinyon Mitchell. He was hoping that the Cowboys got him. They also picked up Cooper DeJean in the second round. He's a defensive back, white guy. So we're starting to see return of white guys playing in the secondary defensive backfield. I think he might be injured if I'm not mistaken, so we might not see him early, but I do expect him to see him some point in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he made some down plays against the Commanders, but we'll see. They also picked up edge rusher Jalix Hunt in the third round, and I thought this was pretty good. It was kind of like a legacy draft pick. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He got drafted in the fifth round with them. There's a lot of guys remember Jeremiah Trotter. I definitely remember that name because he definitely made some plays against formerly known as the Redskins back in the day. So yeah, overall, I think this team Jalen Hurts and their coach Nick Sirianni can get their heads straight, return to form, and win the division. I think they'll be in first place. On paper, man, this team is loaded. They still got AJ Brown. They still got Devonta Smith. So yeah, man, you add Saquon Barkley to this offense. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to run the ball with him. I feel like they got away from the run last year, but you got Saquon Barkley. Even if they don't run it, he's pretty good at catching the ball in the backfield and making things happen. He's really explosive back, as long as he remains healthy, and he was healthy last season. So I feel like he can build off of that, stay healthy again this year. I really like how the Eagles are looking on paper. Devin White, I'm just thinking about how this defense is going to look now. I think he's going to show up a lot of stuff on the defense side of the ball. They bring in, like I said, CJ Gardner Johnson, Avante Maddox. I think that secondary should be a little better than they were last year because down the line last year, anybody was throwing a party on them. I think they'll be a little better in those regards. So, yeah, man, I got the Eagles finishing first in this division. How you feeling about the Eagles?
Page, I'm going to start with what concerns me, though. New
Okay.
offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Cowboys fans are critical of him about him over his last few years there in Dallas. Last time we saw him coaching in the NFC East, again, he was in Dallas. He called that idiotic play against San Fran in the playoffs where Zeke got planted on the field, and that's probably why Zeke went back to Dallas this season to rewrite his chapter or rewrite his story, so they don't remember that play. And then new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. He's definitely better as a defensive coordinator than he is a coach, head coach. I just think that it's more so from a pressure standpoint. You have all these guys on defense. You're coming out of a season where both coordinators got fired. They were horrendous last year against the pass, which I'll get to a little bit later. So I think it's more so a pressure standpoint for him. Eagles fans are very impatient. They are very impatient. They want results and they want it now. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to be hot on Fangio, even on sports radio up there, to get this thing right. And this again, the secondary. So three concerns: offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and that secondary for sure. Um, we all know what Hurts, Brown, Devontae Smith can do. Dallas Goedert, an all-world tight end, in my opinion. You add in Saquon. I think the pressure is on the offense as well. They collapsed last year. They lost 5 of their last 6 down the stretch. They got away from running the ball. You mentioned it. That's why I wasn't too hyped about the Saquon addition. I think it's more so a loss for New York than it is a gain for Philadelphia. Philadelphia tends to get those running backs, those guys you never heard of. Boston Scott, a couple other guys I'm trying to think of. I was looking at some of the other rosters around the league where they've gone to lately. Kenneth Gainwell, he's the number 2 back. I've seen some people in this offseason on TV saying, oh, Saquon will never lead the field. I don't agree with that. I think that they've always ran that running back by committee situation. Miles Sanders, of course, it's another guy that just left this past season.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, Swift. I mean, yeah, Swift was formidable when he came over from the Lions, but still, they've always had these guys, and they've started one guy. Then you come out and you start watching the game, and you're like, well, who's starting for them today? It could be anyone. They were successful when they was running like 200 yards per game on the ground. That's when they was really good a couple years ago, like when they made the Super Bowl and everything. So yeah, got to see how this offensive line. Though they adjust without Travis, not Travis, that's his brother, Jason Kelsey. And then, yeah, two most important positions on the offensive line is the left tackle, which they're set. Jordan Mailata, he's a lockdown left corner, along with his the guy to his right, Landon Dickerson. But center is also the second most important position on that offensive line. I hope that Jurgens can get in there and work well with Jalen Hurts, especially on those. I can't think of the play. They run straight up the middle. On
The
4th and 1, 3rd and 1,
Philly
push,
special, yeah.
push.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully they're working out really good this offseason and in training camp and the preseason if they play. Snap counts, calling protections. It does take time though. When you get a new guy like that, you've been used to Kelsey's cadences over the years, so it might take time. Defensively, you mentioned it. The unit was horrendous last year against the pass. CD Lamb, week 9 it was in Philadelphia, almost single-handedly won the game for them. 11 catches, 191 yards. Most of that was on that final drive where Dallas went downfield and then Dak threw interception. Week 13 against San Fran, Deebo Samuels, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns on only 4 catches. They were just bad last year. You mentioned some of the additions they added on the back end. They addressed it in the draft as well. So hopefully they could turn it around. They've been stressing over linebacker. You mentioned the Devin White addition. Nolan Smith is now in the starting lineup, so that should be good with them. But Howie Roseman, why would you trade Hassan Reddick to the Jets? That was probably my biggest head-scratching moment for them this past offseason. The sack machine, his last 4 seasons, 12 and a half sacks, 11 sacks, 16 and 11 last season. I think they'll definitely miss him despite the pieces that you mentioned on the defensive line there for them. But yeah, if these new additions can make up for the guys that they've lost there, and if they commit to the run like they have been, I mentioned it several times during the season the past few years, 200 yards a game on the ground per game. us and Baltimore and Philadelphia pretty much were probably the top two running teams from an overall standpoint. They can continue to be in the top place in NFC East, and if not, make a deep playoff run. I really hope that Jordan, um, excuse me, Jalen Hurts. I hope he has a little bit of a comeback season. He had a little bit of a downslide last year after pretty much being in the MVP conversation the season before. But yeah, pressure is on both sides of the ball this year to perform. Those fans are very intense up there in Philadelphia.
Yes, they are. Definitely see what they'll do next season. All right, Dallas Cowboys, like you said, biggest rival for Washington Commanders. I said Dan Quinn's gone. He's our new head coach. Mike Zimmer is now the new DC. They're bringing back Ezekiel Elliott, Jordan Lewis, a cornerback. They're bringing him back. They also signed linebacker Eric Kendricks. That's pretty much all they did as far as signings and
Mhm.
free agency. Let me get to the players they lost. They lost Tyron Smith, their left tackle. He's with the Jets. Tony Pollard, the running back, he's with the Titans. Like I said before, like half the damn team seems like went over to the Commanders. Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biotish, Dante Fowler, they're all gone. Neville Gallimore, he's with the Dolphins now. A player I forgot to mention, another cornerback, Noah Igbinoghene. Sorry if I butchered that name, sir. He's also a cornerback with the Commanders now as well. And Jonathan Hankins, a DT or defensive tackle, he's with the Seahawks. So they got a lot of positions that need to be filled by the new guys. Guys who are stepping up. Draft wise, they drafted a tackle Tyler Guyton in the first round, and edge rusher Marshawn Neelan in the second round, and guard Cooper Beebe in the third round. I think all of the three of these guys, those first early rounds, have to step up right away to make some noise. So yeah, we'll see. CD Lamb, he didn't report to camp, wants a new contract, so I don't know, man. There were some comments from Jerry Jones today. They kind of it was kind of weird. He was like, "I went to high school, I went to college, and stuff like that." I was like, "Okay, what the hell's going on in Dallas, man? I don't know." But this is another contract year, make it or break it year for Dak Prescott, and I feel like every time he's in like a contract year, make it or break it year, he usually comes out and plays balls out to get a new contract. So we'll see if that's the case this year. As long as he stay healthy, I know he makes a lot of bonehead plays, makes a lot of bad decisions, but I still think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. I know Madden rating wise, I think he's like a top 5 quarterback just off of Madden ratings. So yeah, man, if he can play, they need to get CeeDee Lamb back because I'm kind of concerned with the running back situation. I like Zeke Elliott, but I think he's a little long in the tooth at this point in his career. I don't know if he'll be a lead back type of guy anymore. If he can be, they're kind of going to be a running back by committee. But who else is going to step up to take carries and make impactful plays for the running backs? I'm not too sure about that. So we'll see. Trayvon Diggs, the cornerback, blew his knee out. I want to say middle of last year, maybe late last season. I think he's back practicing again, or at least rehabbing. So they should have him back at some time during the season. That'll definitely help out. I'm surprised they haven't brought back Stephon Gilmore. I think he's still a free agent. I think that's a player they should bring back if they can. If not, hopefully we can pick him up, the Commanders. But I think they should look into bringing Stephon Gilmore back because I think that'll definitely help out on that secondary. He looks like he still can play from what I've seen from last year. I'm blanking on the guy who freaking broke like the interception, bringing it back to the house
Ron Bland.
record. Yeah, the Ron Bland. He's still back there. Funny enough, I think he broke the record against us. So congrats to the Commanders and Sam Hall, another embarrassing record that you guys were a part of last year. This goodness. On the new pastures, new season. Sorry, Commanders. I'm still scarred. But yeah, man, Cowboys. Dak Prescott, I think he's gonna ball out. I think, like I said, contract year for him. He wants to get a new contract, either from the Cowboys or somebody. So I think he's gonna ball out. They're gonna need CeeDee Lamb though. If they don't have CeeDee Lamb, who's gonna get the ball? I know they got a pretty decent tight end in Jake Ferguson. So yeah, if they got Dak Prescott, if he can stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. I just got a concern with Ezekiel Elliott and the running back situation. And that defense, I am kind of concerned with just the losses they got as far as their cornerbacks that are gone and the DNs that are gone. I know they got Michael Parsons, but he can't do it all by himself. So see how that goes as well. But yeah, man, what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys this year?
Yeah, question always question why their team never makes any notable moves in free agency, and they was stating the same thing this past March and April in free agency. But on the bright side, they're another team in NFCs with two new coordinators. Brian Schottenheimer on offense, Mike Zimmer on defense. Zimmer's familiar with the Cowboys from his days back years ago, long before he became head coach. I think he's a hell of a defense coordinator. I think he steps into a role that was made look very easily by your new head coach, Dan Quinn. Um, but Schottenheimer, he's faced some questions over the years from his play calling standpoint. So we'll see how that goes. I think that big guy Mark McCarthy, I'm sure he'll still be calling most of the plays down there, but at least as far as I know. But yeah, the biggest questions for me with this roster and heading into the 2024 season with the Dallas Cowboys, can they successfully run the ball? You mentioned Zeke and those guys. It is some questions with you know the personnel standpoint there, and can they stop the run? It's been a no in both categories last season. Um, so to me, like you said, they haven't done much to address this situation either. Their run defense was just as bad as the Philadelphia pass defense. So yeah, linebacker and safety are two positions I'll be watching when the Cowboys play when I see them play because they do have some concerns there. We know about Micah Parsons, Demarcus Lawrence up front. Mozzie Smith was a guy that Cowboys fans were really high on when they drafted him last year. I think he was a second round pick, and he didn't necessarily perform. Seemed like teams were just running straight up the middle against the Cowboys there for a while. So yeah, and I hope this is something that my Ravens can expose them in week 3 when we go down there to Jerry World. Um, but yeah, you mentioned CD Lamb. I think it's extremely important to get him signed. We saw what he did last year. I mentioned what he did single handedly against the Eagles in week 9. Um, Probably was one of the best receivers in the league last season. I think that they'll get him signed before the season. I know Jerry Jones does sometimes say some things that makes you scratch your head and make you wonder what he's talking about. Stephen Jones, Cowboys fans are a little bit hard on him as well, but I don't feel like Dak Prescott will get signed until after the season, probably depending on how he plays. I think he's the longest tenured NFC quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think they'll definitely make a push for first place, but I got them finishing in second place. I think that Eagles roster is just a little bit more talented um, than the Cowboys is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. So yeah, pretty much we all are in agreement on the first two teams list at least. Third and fourth place, we kind of disagree about, but we'll see what happens
Yep.
for sure. So yeah, man, NFC West and the NFC East. Want to switch topics a little bit. I'm wondering if you got any bonehead moves for this week of the off season for you.
I can't remember off the top of my head. So if you want to go first, if you got one, I feel like it was something that
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it in your opening drive with the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants getting fined for fighting. I trust me, I get it, guys. Physical game, motions can run high, so I understand when fights happen. But why the hell are y'all throwing punches with your helmets on? Like, come on now, you mess around, break your damn hand, throwing your punch, hitting it in the wrong spot on somebody's helmet, and then Daniel Jones. You talk about, yeah, I'm gonna get in the front too. Somebody could see you in a crowd and would try to whoop your ass just because you're the quarterback, thinking, what the hell are you doing out here, quarterback? So you definitely tripping. I should give you your own personal bonehead move of the week. And yeah, man, mostly I think it started with Malik Neighbors and a cornerback with the Lions. They first got into it, and people started swapping pushes and slapping each other on the head, and a full blown brawl broke out. I'm like, come on, y'all. I don't really care about the fights. It's just like, why y'all throwing punches at each other with your helmets on? Like, please, what's the point? Stop it. So yeah, that's my bonehead decision of the week. I kind of want to give a little bit of bonehead to one of my players on the Commanders, Terry McLaurin. I think I shared a clip with you earlier in the week. They had a photo shoot or something, and he does a backflip or front flip. I think it was a backflip, and he he doesn't land properly. It falls and like hits the back stand or something. I was just like, good Lord Almighty, please, can we not start? Can we not start the season like this? Can we just get it together? So yeah, I guess I got a combination of boneheads. Yeah, you got anything?
Getting back to that backflip thing, I had just watched. I'm a little bit late, but I was just watching Central Intelligence with Kevin Hart and The Rock. I don't know if you saw it, and Kevin Hart kept doing backflips or front flips, whatever, in that movie, and he was falling flat on his face, and that's the first thing I thought about when you sent me that clip of Scary Terry doing that. So yeah, hopefully he doesn't do that in any games as a celebration and in front of the crowd. And we don't want to do that on national TV or anything like that. So, but yeah, my bonehead move of the week was getting back to that Jerry Jones comments. We don't have urgency on this Lamb deal. I mean, just say it's working. Just say it's in progress. We all know that probably behind the scenes something's getting worked. Whether they're submitting a number to the Lamb representatives or Lamb's team is saying that we want X amount, what I'm saying? We know that it's probably some behind the scenes stuff going on because when you got somebody of that talent, you just don't stop. You know what I'm saying? You can't possibly tell me that you don't have any urgency with what pretty much less than a month to the start of the season. I think it's 27 days to Ravens Chiefs and probably another 3 or 4 days on top of that till Dallas hits the field. So you mean to tell me you don't have urgency on that? Jerry Jones just needs to honestly. If I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be saying this too, and they pretty much do. He needs to just go be an owner, go collect the money, stay off the TV. Why do you have a weekly radio show? Why do you always have to talk to the media after the games? Because you just say stuff, and it your team is already under enough pressure, and then you add more pressure, you add more spotlight to them in a negative way. Just you got your son running the general manager um, uh, duties from for the most part. Jerry still has a very good amount of say in it. Let the people do their job. Let Mike McCarthy coach the team. Let him talk to the media after the team. Let the defense coordinator talk to the media after the team. Let the players talk to the media, the ones that are the leaders of the team. Let them talk. We don't need to always hear from you, Jerry. So he needs to come back, in my opinion, and redeem himself and say, okay, yeah, we're working on it, or give a good positive update. You know what I'm saying? Don't add these Cowboys fans any more stress than they already have heading into the season. Even though I don't like all Cowboys fans, but CD Lamb is on a different level. You got to get this done. It's got to be urgency to get him done, or not. I mean, you can always trade him to Baltimore. We'll take him. So, but switching gears real quick, I want to ask you: y'all play the Jets
Yeah.
at MetLife Stadium tomorrow. It is at noon Eastern. Looks like it's on NFL Plus. Give me one thing you want to see out of your roster, one thing you want to see from your team tomorrow, or
I
more,
want to see
more than
Jaden
one thing.
Daniels play. Let's start
Mhm.
there. I hope he plays. I don't want to see him just one possession. I want to see him at least a half, not at least a quarter of football. That's the most thing I'm looking forward to or hoping he plays. Then I want to see how these rookie looks. The cornerback out of Michigan, Mike Sarenstill, my Haitian brother, go blue. I want to see how he looks out there. Emmanuel Forbes, just awful last season. I think you need some reps, as much as you can get. Oh man, good Lord Almighty. I need to see what the scheme is going to look like. Eric Bieniemy was a coach last year, and he tried to turn Sam Howell into Mahomes 2.0. We threw the ball way too much. I don't think we utilized Brian Robinson enough or Antonio Gibson. So I'm trying to see what Cliff Kingsbury. Excuse me for calling you Kyle Kingsbury earlier. I'm gonna need to see what Cliff Kingsbury and his offensive scheme looks like. Brian Robinson needs to run the ball more. Austin Eckler, I think he's still a pretty competent running back. We can use him running the ball and in the passing game. So I'm interested. I know it's going to be vanilla both sides of the ball, offensive defense, but just give me an idea of what it's gonna look like. So those are the two main things we're looking for. Just overall, what are fans gonna come out? Because over the last 4 or 5 years, the fan turnout at games mostly been opposing team fans coming to play, and it's basically like a neutral field for the opposing team. It's not a traditional or home and away game. It's neutral where you got more fans to the away team cheering because we getting our asses whipped up and down the damn field. So that's what I'm looking forward to most. Jaden Daniels, the rookies, Emmanuel Forbes, how the offensive defense play calling is going to go. And yeah, man, if the fans are going to show up, I know it's a preseason game, but are people excited with this new regime, new GM? We're going to have a new football president. Because Jason Wright, you told me that earlier. He's gone too. So just man, what's it going to look like? I remember we played y'all. Was it the first game? We played y'all in the preseason. That game went down to the wire. We won it off of like a field goal, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we got some going here." Then how that season went. Yeah, so that's what I'm most looking forward to. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if I'm a Commanders fan, I'm looking to situational situations, I guess you could say. Dan Quinn, first time coaching since the Atlanta days. How will he manage his timeouts? Um, uh, he'll have a former head coach as well, Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator. How will they call plays? Who's going to be in the booth? Who's going to be on the sidelines? You know, Dan Quinn obviously made his bread and butter. It was so often they had that shot of him in the booth. What will he look like down on the field? His challenges, how will he utilize them in the preseason? A lot of times they don't do it during the preseason, but you might get an idea. New defensive coordinator. How will the rhythm be? Different personnel on and off the field. So that's what I'm looking forward to if I'm a Commanders fan. As for the Ravens game, they play Friday night tonight, 7:30 in Baltimore at the bank. I'm looking to avoid mistakes. Last time we were on the field, we had Zay Flowers losing his mind. We had Kyle Van Noy losing his minds. Both 15-yard penalties, backing us up, or in Kansas City favor, moving the ball closer to the end zone. And I'm just looking to see these young guys hopefully come in there with the right mindset and not make the mistakes, because I know a lot of the starters won't be playing. So I do want to see these young guys, have the composure when you're, pressure. You got a Philadelphia team that may go 7 plays, 70, 80 yards, and they got you backed up. We always had that bend but don't break defense. How are you going to react when you're backed up in your own territory? They're getting ready to score. You want to stop them, or you want to make a stupid mistake? You know what I'm saying? Don't be doing nothing crazy again like Zay Flowers and Kyle Van Noy did, and some stuff that Justin Madubuike did early in the season last year before he really came on and became a superstar. He had some stupid ass penalties as well. So yeah, don't make the mistakes, and let's get out of there. With as few penalties as possible to give us some positive hope heading into the season.
Gotcha. So we talked about the NFC West and NFC East this week. Who are you trying to talk about next week, man?
Let's do was it North and South next week? AFC North and South. That sound good?
That sounds
my division.
Real good.
Got 2 competitive divisions. I think they're going to be probably the better divisions in football next year.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting to see how we rank these teams, what we see for these teams heading into 2024.
Definitely.
All right, everyone. That's it. You good? Got anything else?
No, sir. I'm all good.
All right, everyone. That's going to do it for this episode of the Breaking Interim Podcast, breaking down the NFC East and NFC West coast to coast on the National Football Conference. Until next time, love one another.